Greetings once again, fellow 7 Days to Die fans. This is Small Archangel welcoming you to this bonus video, this bonus episode. As people who are fans of my, I don't know, any of my series or my creative zone will already be aware, I occasionally like to reward people's patience by showcasing one of my more imaginative builds, and this is one I did want to try for quite some time. Obviously it would have been wonderful if I could have made it hover truly, but the only way I've ever managed to do that, well, I managed to make one of my bases hover by accident once by trying to destroy it, and it fell down, only not completely, and it was stuck hovering in the air, and at that point I wanted it to fall down and it just refused to. But I have never been able to reproduce that, unfortunately. So this one is, this spaceship is standing on its own legs, but I think it looks the part. It's adequately supported without the legs getting too much in the way, and I think it doesn't detract too much from the overall design. So in spite of the fact that this build is much smaller than some of the other ones I've done, it's still taken a lot longer to construct, decorate, and most particularly wire up than a lot of the other stuff that I've showcased on my creative studio. And maybe you guys will understand why when I show you around on board. So as I say, I had this idea a while back. I've been playing Mass Effect Andromeda, and so this probably owes a little something to the Tempest, but not entirely, because it's very, very much smaller than that. So I made good use of the Alpha 16 electric mechanics, so we've got lots of spotlights but also other kinds of lights built into this. And also, as you can see here, I'll just show you around the outside, the rest of the place, we've got a couple of gun turrets, one either side of the entrance trap way. I wanted to put even more gun turret, some guns all the way around, like on the wings and places where you'd expect to find them on a Starship, but unfortunately there was no way of really doing that without it just looking like they were just stuck there. I couldn't get them to look like an integral part of the overall machine, so I was disappointed by that, but there you go. I had great fun building this thing. It doesn't look like it, but it's made out of reinforced concrete. Basically, I very rarely use steel because I just find it so hard to maintain. So the whole thing is just painted to look the way it does now. But actually it is, as I say, just reinforced concrete, the whole thing. So from the point of view of structural stability, that's all I'm using here. And you can see, yeah, I've used, just for the jets at the back there, I've used some more spotlights. And then underneath here, in a slightly UFO-esque way, we've got spotlights facing straight downwards, and obviously this is my Feral Horde Night disco dance floor underneath the underneath those bars that are above our heads. So that's my usual kind of horde fighting mechanics. Unfortunately, the spotlights do seem to cause a little bit of lag, which is a tad galling. But there you go. And another thing that I really would have liked to include in this build, but we don't really have the wherewithal in the game at the moment, is a true sort of trapdoor that I could have, opened and shut here. But what I had to settle for was this ramp, which sort of looks the part, and then of course has a gap at the top, but we haven't got a closable hatch up there. The nearest thing we've got, I suppose, is the drawbridge, but the drawbridge is made out of wood and only flips directly sort of vertically downwards, which means you can't drive a bike up it, you can't even get up it. It clips through things and looked weird. So that wasn't, I did try it, it does not look the part at all, so this is my compromise solution. And then, yeah, as I say, I would like some closing doors there, but unfortunately the garage doors, which are closest to the hatchway I would like, don't flip onto sort of the horizontal like that. They only go sort of on a vertical plane and can't be flipped downwards. So that is the limitation there. I've placed the whole edifice on a sort of a landing platform type thing, and I've used black and yellow, or black and orange, I think it is, concrete paint just to sort of delineate where I need to drive my bike in order to get into this contraption correctly. But the good thing about this ramp is that I can actually, as long as I haven't got a broken leg, I can jump inside the craft as well. And there we go. We can see all the way, well, not quite all the way to the end of the nose cone there, but you can see a fair old way in. So that's where we're going to start. This is obviously where I park my bike. So this is kind of the bike garage and entrance lobby. I've got railings around here so I don't accidentally fall down. Those guns basically I put there to kind of prevent zombies from sort of trying to get up here. I don't honestly think that they could. They've never tried, but the guns do make me jump every time they go off, which is... but they are very effective, I have to say. As long as you can keep them in ammunition. So you can see I've got a few of these around, but most of these, to be honest, are hidden behind the walls and in the ceiling and things. So... most of them I've managed to conceal, but those two, yeah, this was a difficult area to wire up for electricity. And then this is the nose cone of the craft with lots and lots of storage. To be fair, I haven't actually needed to use most of this storage. There's so much of it in this place. These drawers are brilliant. They are the best thing ever. They take up very, very little space and have tons of capacity. As you can see, I've got a world of gasoline there. And then I've got my bike parts, spare bike parts here. So yeah, and then yeah, I've got extra storage for stuff in there as well that I don't really need. Then in my lobby area here, I've also got my tool crate there, and this drawer I use for stuff to take to the traders. And then of course got my bike, full stop. I can kind of turn it around in here if I need to, but also we're not that high up, so even if I wheel out backwards, it doesn't do me or the bike any harm at all. Now we've got a glass window there, but that's more for seeing out from the inside. You can't really see through in this direction. So if I show you inside the main body of the craft, it's quite wide from the outside. And before we finish the video, I'll just kind of show some sort of footage of, I'll have to go into fly mode, I think, to go all the way around the craft so you can see what it looks like on the outside a little bit better as well. So we've got basically symmetry here. I don't actually need two doors there. I don't need two hatchways, but I like stuff to be symmetrical, and this place is really very symmetrical, as you can see. Except that in the bays, this is basically a cargo hold, and in the bays on either side we've got slightly different things. So I've got my workstations here and my gun safes, and I've got some ammo there. These munitions boxes unfortunately can't be picked up. I don't think they can be bought either, so I mean I made this in creative mode, obviously. Can we clear this? This is my creative zone. That's what I do here, and it would have taken me even longer had I tried to make this without creative, because boy, it went a little bit wrong a few times, as you can imagine. And I've got my forges, my concrete mixers, and then I've got the storage for all said things. And if you're noticing a little bit of lag, spotlights. It is the spotlights. There is something about this. Is not that big a build, but as soon as I had those spotlights put in and turned on, I've been having this little bit of lag, which is quite galling. I could do with being able to switch them off, to be honest, but that is not something... yeah, there's a bit more of it. That is not something that I have actually managed to implement, but this is a very effective kind of construction, being able to shoot straight downwards into the head of the enemies. And I'm too hot. Of course I am. My fault for not building in a snow biome, but basically I wanted a levelish space, and that's what dictated this. Then through the back here we basically have the utilities, and I've just shut the door because it lagged out again. It's not normally this bad, to be honest with you. I'm not quite sure what's going on. And this is basically the utility space. So you can kind of imagine this being a sort of a control room. It's not really a very functional space, except that I've got my battery banks here. I've got solar panels, which I'll be able to show you in a moment as well, because we're going to go outside. Solar power, which is powering this rocket. And that is backed up by battery banks, so that of course we've still got power when the sun goes down at night. And we can get out of either side onto the wings of the craft, and we're going to go in this direction because in this direction lies my garden. Don't need that anymore. Here we go. And so you can see, here's the wings. The paint colours I've used here, what is this? Taupe metal, I think. And then steel, stainless steel. And then the red is just red metal. And then these, yeah, that's the steel kind of grid kind of effect. But that's pretty appropriate as well. And you can see it's quite sort of wide, the barrel kind of shape here, which I've managed to form using ramp blocks and then wedge blocks and sort of wedge tip blocks, and that was one of the things that was a bit trial and error really. And I've got a solar bank there, I've got a solar bank there over there on my garden as well. I've got a solar bank either side, so again, symmetry is the thing here. I've got them all over the place, and this is how technically I've got more power production here than is strictly necessary in this small craft. But what I've done is I've ranked them up just so that I had the shortest. Oh, look, I haven't painted behind that one. I've got the shortest distance between my battery banks, my wiring, my connectors, and my lights, so that I don't have wires hanging all over the ship. And then you can see I've got my little spoilers here as well, which I think look pretty cool. So then if I run to this side of the ship, you can pretty much go all the way around the outside, which is good because, I mean, you can go on the nose cone if you want, which is pretty good from a point of view of having to do external repairs. So there we go. And then, as you can see here, we've got our garden, which is, yeah, it's essential to have a garden. I mean, obviously, you've got all this wing space, which, apart from possibly sniping at zombies, you couldn't really do anything very much with. Technically, you could put a garden on here, but that would look a bit silly. And I wanted the craft to look as if it was space ready and could take off any moment. If only. So what we've got is this little walkway here, which is covered over with curved bulletproof glass. I made it bulletproof because I didn't want cops spitting at it and breaking it, but actually no cop has been near it, which is interesting. Well, obviously not that surprising. They all tend to go for the killing floor where I am on Horde Night. And then you can see I've got my garden growing here on a series of platforms. So we've got platforms, all of which are of slightly different heights, and I've got 5 of them, I think. I've got the top one there, this one here, then I've got this one here, and then I've got one either side of that. And then as a rear entrance, because at the front, of course, we've got our sort of ramp, trapdoor, hatch entrance. As a rear entrance and exit, I have a drop down and elevator up system. So basically this is, I don't make massive use of this, and I probably should because it's cool. I love just playing with that. It's great. So so that is my little entrance elevator there, which is pretty cool. It's quite a fast way of getting into the base, even at night from the rear end. So we're efficient as we can be with yeah, with our sort of entrances on both sides. But now we're going to go back into the craft, and I'm going to show you guys. Oh, look. Some naughty zombies been punching my structures. We're going to go back into the ship again, and I'm going to show you the interior part that's the upstairs, the living quarters, if you will. There's the living quarters and the cockpit. This whole tour is not going to take that long because it's not that big a place, really. So we've got 2 ladders. I didn't put hatches here because I've used concrete plates for the flooring, which is much thinner, which meant that the whole base didn't need to be quite as tall as it otherwise would have been. Because obviously I didn't want it being too tall, because that would have been, well, I don't know, would have kind of spoiled the shape. So that's why I spent quite a lot of time messing about with it as I did. So here we go. So you can imagine we've got some little console-y things there. We've got a desk chair, which isn't quite the thing. It could do with nailing down at the very least. And again, I've used bulletproof glass just because it seems more secure, and it also seems a little bit more space age somehow as well. And I've managed to use ramp blocks for a nice sloped screen here. It is quite difficult to see through any glass, whether it's bulletproof or no, because any light source just reflects straight back off it in a way that doesn't actually really happen in real life. So you never get a brilliant view. But there you go. So that's my cockpit. It's not very big, and it's just for RP purposes. It's not really particularly useful. I do have a couple more battery banks here. As I say, I've got them all over the place. I've even got them hiding under furniture, in the middle of walls, you name it. Okay, in here I've made even more extensive use of concrete plates in order to create walls without taking up any actual space. So you can see I've got a couple of little compartments here. Basically the whole ship is not ever so large, so we've got these glassed in ceiling and window compartments. I've built the bed because all of the beds in game are, well, they don't really go with the build, to be honest. As you can imagine, a sort of a manky old metal bed frame doesn't look great, and neither does a double-sized, divan. So I wanted something that looked a little bit more spaceshipy, so I built this out of platforms again, and actually, well, I think it was made out of wooden platforms, this one, just to make sure it wasn't quite so heavy. But underneath there I've got an actual bed. I've placed an actual bed, so my respawn point, as you can see, is right here. It is actually there, and I have died and respawned here with no trouble at all, so that works fine. This is my wardrobe. How lovely. And I put these dome lights around here. There we go. I could switch off my spotlights, I suppose, and see if this would make any difference, but they're a little bit difficult to reach because I have placed them behind bulletproof glass, which again looks great, but does make it a bit difficult to turn them off. But the lag is not normally as bad as it is right now. How typical. I was playing just a while ago and it was fine. So that doesn't make any sense at all. Maybe it's my recording software, but I would have thought that doesn't normally have that effect. So this is my bathroom, which is very small, basically. We have a non-functional shower. We have a toilet. Our sink here basically contains our bandages, first aid kits. All of this stuff is hard-earned loot, by the way. I have been playing this. You can see in game it's day 79. It took me about 60 days to build this, if I remember correctly. It took quite a long time, so actually, yeah, it was quite late in game by the time I fought my first horde. It was a big one. So it was a real test, but it worked out really well. And then we've got our open plan kind of kitchen, living, dining area here, and again we've got the glass roof, which I really like. Actually, I might have to reuse that idea in another kind of build because it works really well. And then we've got a nice neat little kitchen. It doesn't have much in the way of storage space because these end bits here are some solid curved pieces rather than actual cupboards, but they're painted to look like cupboards, but they look rather more sort of space age than anything else I could come up with. Similarly, I've painted them to match the bottom of the fridge rather than using the usual wooden cupboards, which wouldn't look quite right in here either. Got my oven, got my fridge, got all my food in there, of course, as I usually do. And then I've got this little dining area, and I thought the stools looked way better than the chairs do in game, of course. And then I've got these painted to look like a beverage cooler on one side and kind of like a cupboard on the other. So I thought that was an efficient use of space. I've got a drawer there instead of a bookcase, so I'm keeping my sort of quest stuff there. And then I've got a safe here for putting my dukes in. But right now I don't have that many dukes, so that's not strictly necessary. And then you can see this wire here is demonstrating a nice little bug that we have in the game with wiring, wherein that wire should be completely and utterly invisible, but for some reason it's chosen to jump a few feet to the left, and yeah, instead of plugging into the back of that light, it's just sticking randomly out of the wall. So that's quite aggravating. And then we have a little fireplace here as well, and obviously I've got my cooking pot and my grill and my beaker in there so that I can make my my tea, my goldenrod tea, my red tea, and cook all my food up in that as well. So it's not just there to look good and to warm me up on cold nights. It's very kind of practical as well. So in essence, I mean, I know I always say this, but that's because it's always true. I really like this base. It's actually my favourite base thus far. One of the things that I really like about it, apart from the fact that it's just a little bit odd, a little bit different, is the fact that actually it's quite small, and because it's quite small, that means that it's efficient. It's more efficient than having, I don't have loads of ladders to go up and down. It's not really high off the ground. I can get about in it without too much running around, and from that point of view, you know, it sort of maximizes my looting potential, and yeah, I'm spending less time in game trying to find the right containers and things, because it's more or less obvious where everything is, even though I haven't had to put signs around. I haven't got a single sign around the place, because all of the containers are in logical places where I just know what they've got in them, like the one in the bedroom, and the ones in the bathroom, and the ones next to my crafting stations downstairs. So I hope you've enjoyed this little tour. That's pretty much it, except, as I say, I will append on the end some footage of me doing a bit of a fly around the thing, so you can see what it looks like from the outside. And yeah, it did take a long old time to build, but it was great fun trying. And I think it's turned out pretty well. I feel like it was, you know, it was a worthwhile experiment, and I hope that you guys agree. So please feel free to hit the like button, and do let me know what you think there in the comments. And I hope that you guys will join me for another episode of 7 Days to Die Alpha 16, or fingers crossed, hopefully it won't be too much longer before playing Alpha 17 and all the changes that brings. Or if you're new to the channel, check out what else we've got to offer, and do have a look, see what other stuff I've built in the creative zone as well. So guys, apart from the little flyover, which I will do now, I hope that you enjoyed this tour, and I hope that you'll join me for another video very soon. Till then, keep gaming, stay happy, and bye bye for now.